One of the saddest things to develop in WWE over the past decade has been the decline of Shinsuke Nakamura. At one point, Nakamura was on top of the world, not only as the IWGP World Heavyweight and Intercontinental Champion, but he at one point also was the hottest free agent out there, and his inaugural match with Sami Zayn at NXT TakeOver Dallas stands to this day as one of the most impactful and most talked about debuts, not in WWE history, but in wrestling history. That is how much Shinsuke Nakamura meant back in 2016, and it only got bigger from there when he won the Royal Rumble in 2018. However, ever since then, there has been a stark and alarming decline in not just Nakamura's presence, not just the way he is presented on WWE TV, but in something that Nakamura used to have quite a lot of, and that is aura. And I know that that is a term in pro wrestling that is used a lot, but for Nakamura, that was truly what it came down to. On top of being one of the best wrestlers in the entire world, on top of being one of the most charismatic people in professional wrestling, Nakamura had all of the aura in the world, and that aura, that vibe seems to have diminished alarmingly over the past couple of years. And it all goes back to one decision that WWE made back in the aftermath of Nakamura winning the Royal Rumble. When Nakamura won that Rumble, it was truly one of the most talked about things that WWE had done in a while. It didn't just mark a changing of the guard for the company. It didn't just mark the potential for a brand new breakout star and for Nakamura to reach that potential that he had in WWE, but it told fans that there were going to be changes made. It told fans that there was a new vision, a new story beyond what everyone had been used to hearing. Beyond Roman Reigns winning and going to the main event of WrestleMania. Beyond John Cena winning, going to the main event of WrestleMania. Things that had happened time and time again in the past few years. And all of it blew up in our faces because at the end of the day, there was no plan for Shinsuke Nakamura to win at WrestleMania. There wasn't even a plan for the Royal Rumble winner to main event that year's WrestleMania, as his epic rematch with the phenomenal AJ Styles, the reigning defending WWE champion, was relegated to the middle of the card in a match that was almost as unmemorable as Nakamura's Royal Rumble win is today. And it's unfortunate because this was a match that had been built up even by WWE to be a dream match. We had seen these two go toe-to-toe in New Japan Pro Wrestling. This had been built up as a bit of a rivalry even in WWE, which is not something that WWE necessarily does. But the fact that they built it up, the fact that Nakamura and AJ had this history, it led you to believe that worst case scenario, whether Nakamura main events or not, no matter what, this match was going to hit. And on top of that, you would think that the guy that they just put over in the Royal Rumble, the guy that they just had win, the guy that they seemingly had put all their chips in to try to make into a big star, would come out victorious. And that didn't happen. Instead, AJ Styles walked out as the winner. And instead, we got this weird moment where Nakamura at the end hit AJ Styles with a low blow, and in subsequent rematches continued to do that until the feud just petered out, and Nakamura never won the World Championship. And ever since then, it's been a decline. Ever since then, Nakamura has never reached the heights that he had at that moment. And a lot of it, I think, comes down to timing. I think in the aftermath of Nakamura not being put over, it just became a thing where you had to put over other people. You had to put over Roman Reigns. They were still in the midst of that project. Nakamura was not going to see that world title scene anytime soon. They were also in the middle of trying to bring back names like Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, both of whom had world title reigns in that time. And Nakamura was relegated to the midcard, and ever since then, that is what he has been. And even the most recent United States Championship win came with a bit of potential, because people thought that this new Nakamura character, this darker side of Shinsuke Nakamura, could unlock a new potential for him and could unlock a new story and a new future for him, and it didn't happen. Instead, Nakamura wins the title from LA Knight, and he proceeds to defend it a couple of times in some throwaway matches on SmackDown, and he loses it again, and no one really cared. And it's unfortunate, because everything coming into him arriving in WWE led you to believe that Shinsuke Nakamura could be one of their biggest stars. Everything about his debut led you to believe that WWE saw superstar potential in him. Everything going into that Royal Rumble win and after led you to believe that Shinsuke Nakamura was going to be a future world champion. And just like that, all of that potential, all of that hype, all of that aura that Nakamura had been slowly ripped away. And there's many people you can blame about this. You can blame Triple H because he's the most recent person to mess up Shinsuke Nakamura's run, and he deserves some blame for this latest version of the character not hitting. But at the end of the day, the person who deserves most of the blame, the person who all of this falls on, is Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon was the man in charge when Shinsuke Nakamura won the Royal Rumble. It was his decision to have Shinsuke win, but everything and every bad decision after that was also Vince's thought. It was Vince's decision. And needless to say, none of it panned out the way that fans wanted, and none of it seemingly panned out in the way that Vince wanted, because in Vince's mind, he thought that this was going to turn Nakamura into a top heel, and that wasn't the case. In fact, fans wanted to cheer Nakamura. They wanted to have this guy be one of their top baby faces, and he had all the potential to be that. But Vince McMahon, for whatever reason, could not get out of his own head. And as we know, Vince McMahon is no longer in charge, and Triple H is now there. As far as what the future holds for Nakamura, given this latest failure in his gimmick, I don't see Nakamura really being there I don't see Nakamura being rehabbed as a character. I don't see Shinsuke Nakamura in WWE really working beyond some mid-card title reign in the future. And it's really sad, because Nakamura at one point was truly one of the best wrestlers in the world. And to see how far that star has fallen for someone who has always been a fan of Nakamura is quite sad. Doesn't mean he can't overcome this. Doesn't mean he can't potentially leave WWE and go back to New Japan or go to AEW and be big again. But as far as it goes right now, I don't see that happening. But hey, I guess we'll see.